Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Email me directly for pricing. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Launched in 1987, this is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Odysseus Perpetual calendar, a JLC base movement with an IWC Kurt Klaus mechanically programmed perpetual calendar module. It was the flagship complication in one of the first new lines to launch at Jaeger-LeCoultre after the quartz crisis, and it's hard to believe, but the 1980s now constitutes the vintage watch era. Typically, when we speak of vintage, we speak of 1970s and prior. Well, this is definitely vintage, as once you get into the realm of 3 and 4 decades, a timepiece is distinctly different from what's currently available, both on the market as a whole and from the manufacturer in particular. The watch also has a wonderful period style that translates well because its proportions are discrete and its size is compact. This watch is also redolent of its era, an historically important era because it marked the dawn of modern luxury mechanical watchmaking. We're past the quartz crisis when this watch was launched in 1987, but luxury watchmakers like JLC that managed to survive were just beginning to find their footing in a market where the cheap mechanical watch was dead, and the mechanical watch buyer was now someone seeking tradition, exclusivity, a link to history and hand craftsmanship, and above all, prestige. And this watch, back in the 1980s, delivered all of that. It still does today. That said, being an 80s piece, some elements of the style and the size are definitely of the period. It's 35 millimeters in diameter, and this is case code 7, so the middle number of the reference is 7. At JLC, that means a unique fusion of yellow gold and rose gold. We'll talk about that in a moment, but continuing with the dimensions, the watch is 8.3 millimeters thick, which is ultra thin for a perpetual calendar that's also an auto. Lug to lug, it's only 40 millimeters, and even if you include the end links of the bracelet, it's still just 46.3 millimeters across the wrist with a very vintagey 18 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now, about that mixed material, we have a super subtle combination of yellow gold and rose gold garnishing. So you can see these gadroons on the flanks of the case. They're actually rose, contrasting with the yellow gold of the case. The crown is also rose gold, and you can see the center links of the bracelet also of rose gold. We'll throw this watch on my wrist and I'll give you a sense of how it fits. How it fits is very compact. I don't like colored gold, rose, yellow, straw, whatever, when it's too big and too strident. This watch, being wonderfully compact, wears it well with good manners. This is a timepiece that's suitable for a wrist of any size. I'm not going to give you a lower limit because it is so compact. A lady or a man could wear it and wear it well because it does have an awful lot of bold gold. So while not large, it makes quite a statement, but does it with good manners, and it slips easily underneath a dress cuff. Taking a look at the bracelet, you can see this watch is redolent of its era. Everything about this timepiece reminds you of the 1980s, and I mean that in the best possible way. The Ferrari Testarossa reminds you of the 1980s. This timepiece reminds you of the 1980s. The Cartier Panthère was all about the 80s until Cartier brought it back alongside the recently revived Pasha collection. So the 80s are making a big comeback. Have you seen the price of Testarossas lately? This watch is very much of that period. Now, it also vents quite well because there are gaps between the links. So if you live in a tropical or hot environment where you typically sweat a lot, it's better to have a bracelet than a strap. It'll save you money too. And no compromise was made in the construction of this bracelet, as it uses screws for removable links rather than, for example, the pin sleeves you'll find on Patek bracelets these days. You can see the clasp internals made of rose gold, and the clasp externals, primary links, are of yellow gold. The case uses welded lug construction, which is something that, quite frankly, JLC doesn't really do anymore on mainstream watches. This is old school case construction with the case made separately from the lugs inserted into a slot in the case band. They're welded together, and then evidence of the weld is removed by hand. This is a level of attention to detail JLC no longer lavishes on watches, or at least its general production, now that the company makes over 100,000 watches a year. We have a handsome curved case with a double gadroon or double strake bezel framing a lovely off-white or eggshell color cream lacquered dial. It really is bottomless, glossy, and beautiful with original tritium lume on both dial as well as hands, which are extended blued broadsword. We have sunken sub-registers for the date, the month, as well as the day, and then at center we have the 24-hour cycle with the danger zone, that period when you should not use the calendar quickset. That's in red. We have a moon phase that has a correction interval of 122 years, and the perpetual calendar can deal with irregular length months or leap years until the year 2100. And because this is an IWC-Kurt-Klaus system, all you do is you quick set the date, and everything else, including the moon phase, moves in programmed sync. You even have the year and the decade up at the top of the dial. What sets the Odysseus and the Lyre from the same period apart from all subsequent JLC perpetual calendars is that, like the IWC perpetual calendars using this module, it has a quick set in the crown. Later on, JLC would have a pusher adjuster on the caseband. So if you want to be able to adjust everything in quick set fashion using the crown, you need to own the Lyre or the Odysseus perpetual calendar. Now, the watch also includes hacking or stop seconds because it uses a JLC 889 automatic base. You can see serial number 66. This is very early production. It even bears the name of the preceding Lyre line, as initially the Odysseus was an extension of the Lyre collection. So we have the perpetual calendar module on top of an 889 base. This combination is known as 889/400. So the base movement is a bidirectional automatic winder, 8 beats per second, hacking seconds, 40-hour power reserve, and ultra thin. Again, this watch at 8.3 millimeters thick is about as thick as a Royal Oak Jumbo, which is extraordinary for an automatic winder with a module complication. Everything about this timepiece recalls its era, and its rarity is extraordinary. I have never seen one of these on a full bracelet in this condition. I have encountered only 2 or 3 Odysseus models in my entire career in watchmaking. These are scarce. They're also gorgeous and a hell of a lot of fun. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com and go back to the future with the JLC Odysseus Perpetual Calendar.